All right, and we're recording now. Avengers Endgame. That's Greg. He's beautiful. Very spoiler heavy. This is going to be spoiler heavy. I'm going to really emphasize the spoilerness of this review.
We should probably try to have a period that's not spoiler heavy.
It's gotta be. I feel like just from the very start.
Spoiler heavy.
Spoilers.
Spoiler heavy. You know, this movie broke all kinds of records. You know if you're going to see it or not. Spoiler heavy. We're done. With 30 seconds of saying spoiler heavy, we're moving along. Now, because
what the hell was that ending? Oh my gosh!
Okay,
yes,
what
is the start of the ending.
Hold on. When you say that, what part of the ending do you mean? Because much like Lord of the Rings: Return of the King,
There's like
this movie's got like a dozen endings.
Okay, so in a movie that's all about time travel, where they literally have no rules about time travel, someone killed themselves and still walked around like it was fine.
That was weird.
And then when people die, they're like, hey, even though we have time travel, let's not go back in time and grab them and bring them back to the present.
Some of that I'm like,
they forced sacrifices in there.
I think the big thing, again, we don't have to say spoilers, is that they establish that really the only thing that needs to come back to the times they travel to is the stones. And they can rip anything else they want out of the timeline.
Pretty much.
As long as
with no ill effects.
Because they don't even really talk about the people screwing up. They literally say that the time stones are what keep your timeline in check.
Yes.
They even said that there's no paradox.
Yeah, they actually established
making fun of movies that had paradoxes in them.
Which is funny because only one movie, in my opinion, has ever been able to get away with that, and that was Looper.
Captain America fought himself. Like,
that was crazy.
Forgot it. Someone killed themselves.
Yeah, that part still is a big sticking point.
Like,
what do you mean?
Nebula.
Yeah, Nebula shot herself and killed her because she's like, well, past me is still bad. I can't tolerate that.
Yeah, so
Pew! They're dead.
Yeah.
And then she just walked around. She was still making jokes later on in the movie. And like,
so basically there's this glaring continuity that no character needs to stay dead.
But they do anyway.
Apart from the ones that don't want to renew their contracts.
But 3 characters stay dead. Right? 3 would be right. Right?
So let's just say,
Gamora, Black Widow.
No, Gamora's around. They just don't know where she is.
But it's not actually. She never got brought. I guess she never got brought back.
Yeah, because it was still like searching. So if Natasha doesn't come back, then Gamora doesn't come back.
So the Gamora came back because her past self came.
Same with Thanos. So Thanos still dies the way he does because Gamora still dies. Let's hold on.
We're getting into some weird continuity stuff before we actually talk about the movie.
Hold on. We're not going to do this. As you can tell, we're a little bit frustrated with the time stuff in this movie. Now, honestly, that kind of stuff, much like in Looper, doesn't bother me if they're like, we are moving along, this is the way we're playing it, and they really stay within those boundaries. This movie does not stay within those boundaries. The problem with
it is that...
And it doesn't make you care enough about everything happening outside of that to not care about them staying within the, not staying within the boundaries. And that's an issue because it's not us that keep going, hey, you're not staying within boundaries. The movie is just throwing it in your face. It's like a lack of caring to do their due diligence.
There's hanging on like the deaths of characters.
Yes.
When it has been clearly established that they don't need to.
Yes.
And the movie spends a lot of time, honestly, from at the beginning, middle, and end, trying to get you to care about characters that, not even that are snapped, characters that are dead, that have been killed.
Yes.
But then establishes that they can just be brought back, and even talks about how they tried to snap them back to life. And it's like, well, we literally saw a character kill their past self and not die.
Hey, if Natasha sells enough dolls.
And then we also literally had, the Ancient One saying that you actually cannot make a paradox as long as that universe has its stones.
They essentially said that them going back in time was preordained, and therefore it wasn't part of the past. It was just a different perspective.
Spoiler,
of those
obviously, if
features.
you've watched the first one, this is the one in
guess.
14 million whatevers,
Yeah.
you know.
So
this is all destined to happen. So huge glaring.
we're
with
putting
the
that
movie.
right front and center because I think that affects every other part of this film. This film gets filtered through that. And I think your enjoyment of this film will be entirely dependent on how easily you can navigate around that glaring issue. I've seen a lot of, this is Friday night.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of people that are like, this movie whips the llama's ass. It's the best dang movie yet. And I'm like, okay. It almost feels like you have that mentality before you go into it. Like you will not let yourself think less of this film.
Yeah.
Now, with all that being said, I feel like the best way to move forward with this review is to talk about it in chunks. So the first hour is, in my opinion, the best part of this film because it's all character crap. It's all character crap. It is, hey, we lost. Do we move on or not? And I think that is really fascinating to examine with all of these different characters and the way they choose to live their lives. And the one that got me the most is actually Captain America. I love the way that he's like, okay, there's not really superheroing I really need to be doing, but I'm still gonna help.
There's a good juxtaposition. Well, he's kind of, yeah, I mean, kind of. He's the never give up guy.
Yeah.
But he also seems like the guy who has most come to terms with them losing.
Yes.
He's the guy who's like, well, there's a lot less boats out there, so we have more whales.
Well, he's also very realistic because as soon as Scott Lang comes back, he's like, hey, there's a real chance of this. Captain's like, okay, we're going to explore that as much as we can, and he drives that forward.
Yeah.
And I like that characterization of Cap. It feels very true to him.
I think that a lot of the characters' motivations, for the most part, felt like they made sense. The only one that got a little bit hokey, a little bit corny for me, was them trying to get Thor, and he's just kind of like a drunkard, and they're like,
yeah, I kind of,
well, we got beer on the ship, and he's like, I'm in. You know, like,
that one felt
was
a
bit
little
hokey,
cheap, but I feel like
but it was
they were
worth
like,
it for the Big
needs the
Lebowski
laughs.
jokes throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Even his epilogue was like a Big Lebowski send off. It's hilarious.
A lot of it just.
They basically put the
I
Big
think
Lebowski.
that they focused on weird aspects of most of the characters.
Yeah.
For Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, they focus on how like she's never not had a mission.
Yeah.
And so like she just doesn't know what to do.
And she's
in
never
a
like
world
not been wanted.
That she like doesn't have someone giving her orders. She doesn't have a you know, do this, do that. And like I think Captain America's just really shined because it was the most realistic, where he was just like, okay, we lost, but we still have something to do. We still have purpose. We're still alive.
Captain found his mission, and as much as Natasha wants to continue a certain mission, she understands how fruitless it's going to be.
Yeah. They make it very clear that there are people still trying to, you know, I don't know, like save the day, figure it out, but they're really just going through the motions.
Yes.
You know?
Although the one going through the most motions is Hawkeye, and I was like, all right, can we get a show that's just this 5-year period? So, snap, 5 years, then we catch up with everyone.
Well,
in this 5-year period, Hawkeye is just like...
You might get it.
I know, and I'm like, if we could just get Hawkeye, basically Sicario Hawkeye.
Aren't we getting a Hawkeye TV show?
He just goes
I think
Punisher.
it's Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. Well, okay, so a little bit, but it is...
Only it's not Kate Bishop anymore, it's just his daughter.
Oh. Moving along.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit Punisher, but I've also seen Hawkeye where Hawkeye's like, fuck it, I'm killing everyone.
I mean, it's been established in
he's pretty
Avengers.
murderous. It can be, yeah.
You know, even the first Avengers, that he was a pretty murdery kind of guy.
Yes. So, that is the first hour, and it really works out as a 3-act structure because just about the end of the first hour, they're like, okay, we can do a time travel thing, a time heist, and we can set this right. We move into the second hour, and the second hour is, to me, I like large parts of it, but it's also very uneven. I feel like the way they're like, here's some humor, here's some not humor, here's some humor, here's some not humor. Really,
it was very peak and valley. Like,
yeah,
they would jump from Captain America fighting himself and making jokes.
That is America's ass.
To, you know,
that was a weird thing in the movie that I felt like I shouldn't have been okay with. But when Cap was like, that is America's ass, I was like, all right. At that moment, that's when he was deemed worthy.
Anyway.
But it went from that to a literal fight of who's going to get to kill themselves.
Yeah, and I'm like, am I supposed to be laughing? Because this is weird.
Yeah, like, they were making jokes and being like,
yeah.
oh, look at us back in our old selves, and look at Hulk having to go downstairs.
Doesn't it kind of make sense, though? Like, sure to use the viewer, it feels weird. But should it really feel weird when it is three teams knowing only where they are, not how they got them?
So,
and to one of them, it's like, they go back to the first Avengers, and knowing what we know about the Avengers now, that's like an easy clap fight for them. Like, that's the kind of thing that you feel like Iron Man could just take that whole situation down.
Yeah.
Loki's not even a threat anymore. Knowing just the things that they know.
Yeah.
So you go in and they with the expectation that they're just going to go clap cheeks, get their stones, get out, because they know where they're going. You have, like, I feel like there is kind of like this unevenness to it, but it kind of makes sense because they go to get the Soul Stone. Nobody really knows how they got the Soul Stone. The only thing they know about the Power Stone is just that it was there.
So more what I'm getting at is,
so
apart from something, and we're gonna spend some time, it might even be its own separate video. We're gonna spend some time with it. Everything in Act 2, I will say, character-wise, it fits. It does fit. It makes sense that everyone acts and does what they do in that act. However, as a viewer, it's like,
it doesn't feel typical.
Yeah,
I won't say it's wrong.
It's not wrong. It is a case of like, okay, how would you change it though? It's almost like they paint themselves into the corner. They're like, okay, we'll take down this wall. We'll push forward.
I think it's a
case
case
of... I would almost
of...
just say don't bounce around so much.
Well, sort of it is like, what do you do when we as viewers already know the characters, the time in the movies that all these stones were in?
Yeah.
And they're sending different characters back. Like, we already kind of know. Like, you kind of know what happens when you go in, so... I mean, I knew the second that you see... Black Widow and Hawkeye get on the plane to go to Vormir.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, one of them's gonna have to die to get it. Yep. And like, as the viewer, that shouldn't surprise you. It shouldn't be an unexpected tonal change. That should be. And I think part of the best part of the second act is it's 100. I felt like everything was expected. Like, I'm not gonna say I called out like shot for shot what was gonna happen, but the movie doesn't treat you like an idiot in that you should be able to look at the scenes and go, okay, I know how they need to get every single. It's like a reward to you as the viewer. Yes. You should be able to know how they get every single
correct.
stone.
I'm just saying.
So it didn't feel wrong to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. It's not wrong. It's just a case of like, how do you do that better? But still,
like, how do you get the Soul Stone without it being sad?
Well, okay. So
although with
is there
that,
a not sad way to get
that,
it? Like,
I felt like I'm like, okay, padding the runtime. Let's move it along.
But it was also one of the shortest stories.
It was, and I will give you that, like, having seen how each stone was acquired originally, we know it's going to have to be something along those lines again.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the same time, that it is a pretty good, like, fun showing of all these older movies, because they all originate from a different movie.
Yeah.
They a lot of references to past Marvel movies.
You get Thor 2, Avengers,
for paying attention
Guardians
to
of the
it
Galaxy.
all,
Yeah.
And so, like, in that regard, I will say
Strange.
it was really good, and the payoff is great, especially when you've seen these past movies. But at the same time, like,
oh my God,
tonally, as a viewer, some of them were a little jarring.
Yeah.
but it wasn't bad.
Yes.
I still think the first 2 hours of this movie, solid. Real solid movies.
So then we move into hour 3. Hour 3 is, let's assemble these things, and then the culmination of everything that has happened in the movie. Because at a point, Thanos figures out what's going on. He's like, let's do this. And he does it.
Which, how he figured out what was going on, that was pretty weak.
They do literally throw a space magic out there.
Yeah. But, again,
it's all within the realm of appropriate comic book lore, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, like.
And then hour 3, so break it into 3 parts. Let's break this one into 2 parts. Let's start the battle. Battle-wise, this one is a little bit weird. We got, like, almost very front row seats, so it was a little difficult to be like, what? Okay. At just certain parts. But again, that's perspective. It's probably, I mean, if I'm to sit further back, it's probably awesome. And it looked great. It was just a lot of head going back and forth. I think the way the battles were set up, and we'll get to the one that I think you'll have a problem with. Battles were set up well. Stakes were executed right. It was a lot of fun to just... all the fan servicey crap works. And it's like... Huh?
Go Cap!
Yeah.
There is, the ultimate...
That one, that's the biggest payoff as far as I'm
send-off,
concerned.
I guess.
Yeah. So, that is... appropriately epic. It's really awesome. It's very satisfying to watch.
You get pretty much every character doing something.
Yeah.
If they weren't doing it in Infinity War, they were doing it in Endgame.
Oh yeah, everyone gets it.
Like, we didn't get a cool Scott Lang moment in Infinity War, but we got him literally stomping one of those floating monsters
that was pretty cool,
out, or punching it out of the air.
Oh yeah, punch that one,
and then
the other
stomping
one
another guy.
Yeah.
And then it was the axe guy from Infinity Wars when they invaded New York.
I forget his name.
Yeah, but he just...
Yeah, you see characters where you're like, well, if so-and-so was in Infinity War, they would have just done this, you know? If Ant-Man was in Infinity War, he would have just stomped on a guy.
Yeah.
And he does.
So,
stomps on a guy.
Really cool. Very appropriately epic. The only weird thing about it, I don't really have a problem with it, but it was very hokey, was when they're like, all right, let's line up all the women, let's line up all the other women, and they're gonna fight! It's
they did the girl power thing again, and it was like way worse than Infinity War.
Cranked it up to 11 and ripped the knob
They were
off.
like, hey, are you with her?
Now...
They did the ultimate. At least I don't know. At least it was a good, at least it was quick.
Proxima Midnight could kick Natasha's ass. We got all these powerful ladies. I'm like, okay, Captain Marvel's behind him. She's just gonna... Done.
Yeah.
But it was weird because it was like, stop the movie, guys.
Yeah.
This is gonna roll out. That was the
very-
issue, is that it stopped everything.
It wasn't, so I guess in Infinity
Whereas
War,
everything else flows
Infinity
really
War,
well.
there were several fights going on.
Yeah.
You have the fights, you have the people trying to protect the Vision.
Yeah.
You have the people dealing with, the grunts. And then you have the random girl power part 2 fight with, Black Widow and Proxima Midnight and all them. Pretty much every girl at that point.
Yeah.
And then they just did it again, and it felt so out of place. It was right up there with the what I've said. I know I wasn't here for the Captain Marvel review, but it's like what I've said to you about Captain Marvel, where the movie didn't feel very hokey about, strong females, until the part where they show the flashback and the guy just goes, they call it a cockpit. And it just felt
gently in
and it just felt really out of place. Like, it just was a
Yeah,
weird
this
pause
one they
on the movie.
stopped
This was
everything
that
to
in the
do
other
that.
direction.
And it was weird. I'm like,
well, and the thing that was so weird about it was such like a nothing scene, because it was literally like the end of the X-Men intro.
yeah,
Where they're just running at each other.
And the thing is, We already have that, and then they set it up again
they
with
set up
just
another
these
one.
subset of characters.
And then it just goes back to like the important one, which is Captain Marvel, doing her thing.
Although
And
it
it's
was
like,
really kick-ass seeing Captain Marvel just be like,
well, no, but that wasn't
fuck
even
this shit, I'm out.
exactly, and that wasn't even like the Captain Marvel was like not the problem with that scene at all.
No.
It was the fact that they're like, "We'll help you, Captain Marvel," and it's like the equivalent of like a UFC fighter getting backed up by like a row of third graders. You know?
Yes.
She's like, I guess, and then
I
just
think-
blast through. And
It was
fix what
just they
she's doing.
stopped it.
Probably
everything
the
to
weirdest
do it.
part about that was just how immediately before that they show like Captain America, Thor, Doctor Strange, Iron